Hi, Charlie Road. Thank you for joining me in this virtual mastery. This is our Monday at 11 o'clock mastery that I'm sharing with those agents that have explained to me that they could not be in attendance at the 11 o'clock mastery on Monday. So I hope you enjoy, and if you have any questions, please send me emails and we can try and walk through it. Okay, so this mastery is about the real estate addendums, and this is according to what the National Association of Realtors um, says for us to be aware of, and as well as what we do here at Carolina One. So, mastering addendums in real estate contracts. There are so many different types of addendums. As you can see from the list that I've provided here, you have your standard addendum, you have your backup contract addendum, addendum to the contract for condominiums. We even have a bed bug addendum. We have lockbox addendums, FHA, VA HUD addendums, lead based paint addendums, and clause addendums. So there are so many addendums that can be used, but the ones I really want to focus on is the repair addendum and the standard addendum form. Okay, so what is an addendum in real estate? An addendum is basically an addition to the contract, which changes or modifies the contract in some way. The addendum must be agreed upon by both parties, right? So the addendum is just a modification of the original terms and conditions of a contract, and it should not be confused with an amendment. It is an addendum, okay? Um, Addendums also allows us a bit of flexibility to um, get a transaction to closing, especially in the areas in which that we find that it's necessary. Okay. So, what is the role of an addendum? The role of the addendum is to normally to modify a purchase price, to change a closing date or due diligence date, or any other date for that matter, and to change or modify financing terms. You can add contingencies with addendums like home inspections or repairs. I should say repairs. Also, you can use addendums to resolve any ambiguities in the main contract, something that is causing some confusion, and the buyer and the seller has agreed to clarify it with the addendum. So, the addendum serves to cover essential parts of the transaction. Okay, what we cannot do in addendums is use an addendum to speak to our compensation. That is not allowed. Um, Never use in lieu of repairs for an addendum. And we're going to talk about repair addendums and the best use of repair addendums and what you should and should not do. Essential elements of an addendum. This is very important that you know. Identification. It must include the date of the agreement, reference to the original contract, and the parties involved. We know on the addendums, the parties sign at the bottom. Some of them, they sign an initial. You do not have to rewrite the parties' names throughout the language in the addendum. More than likely, you are going to say, buyer and seller agree that, or buyer and seller agree to the following. Um, Also, your addendum should have an effective date. That is the date in which the addendum goes into effect. Okay. Procedures should be written. That's a description of the processes and actions that should be taken to fulfill the addendum. This may include details about repairs and how it should be repaired, or inspections, or financial transactions. You also should have a clarification statement, a statement that clarifies that all of the other terms of the contract still remain in full effect. You don't want this addendum to be taken as it modifying the original terms and conditions that you've already agreed upon. So we usually say in the addendum that the terms and contract, the terms and conditions of the original contract remain in full effect. Okay? And the most important part of the addendum are signatures. Okay? Any changes made to a contract or to the addendum should have signatures or initials. And with those initials or signatures, you should have a date and time stamp. That is how we know what the latest change is. Sometimes this causes a confusion for Amanda if she doesn't know what the latest change is. She may send it back and say both parties have not signed it. So if you have the last change signed and initialed by both parties with the date and the timestamp, then we're good to go. We know that that addendum has been properly ratified. Okay. So, what are some common scenarios requiring addendums? You could need addendums to extend due diligence. You can need an addendum to extend a closing date. You can need an addendum to reduce the sales price. You may need an addendum to speak to closing costs. There are a number of scenarios in which addendums may be required. You must know those scenarios and how to write these addendums. Now, with writing addendums, Carolina One prefers all addendums to be written by Megan, our attorney, or your broker. However, you can write them for review. So if you want to write the addendum and send it to myself or Megan for review, we will clearly do that. Or you can just send it and ask for the language. Megan is very good at getting back to you with the language. Please don't ask myself and Megan for language because I'm always going to defer to her as the attorney. So if you want me to give you the language, that's fine. If you asking her, that's fine. Just CC me on it. Okay. The addendums should be clear and concise language. No ambiguities, no confusion. Clear and concise. Effective communication. What you're trying to relay or convey is received by the other party clearly without question. Clarity versus legalese. Don't try to be an attorney because you're not, and you do not have the right to write legal documents. So don't try to make this document full of legalese and herewith and therefore and however and all those things. Just be very clear in what you want done from layman term to layman terms. Just clarity is always going to be on your side. Um, and then you want to make sure it ensures legal compliance, right? That it meets all of the requirements to be in compliant legally. And that is one reason why we say send it to Megan or send it to myself for review. Also, we had a discussion and we talked about different scenarios where addendums may be used and things that were going on in the office and persons who had issues with addendums and wanting to write addendums. So that's where this slide comes in for the discussion portion that the class had today with myself. This is a copy of the repair addendum that you will find on SkySlope. The repair addendum gives you plenty space in here to type out your repairs, to be clear and concise. Make sure you're reading every paragraph and you understand what the paragraph is um, obligating the seller to, and that what the buyer is agreeing to. This repair addendum is 2 pages. Excuse me. So it does require the buyer and the seller to sign on the second page. But as you're negotiating and making changes, you may want to make sure that, excuse me, you want to make sure that any changes that are made and negotiated in the lines are initialed by both parties. So as you go forward, just make sure that when you make the changes, it is legible. Make sure that it is date stamped and time stamped so we know which was the latest changes and what was finally agreed upon. All repair negotiations must be completed before the end of due diligence. You cannot still be negotiating repairs and due diligence is that same day at 5 o'clock. My advice to you is to extend due diligence until you have a chance to ratify the repair addendum. Now, sometimes things come up after due diligence. If it is a material fact, then you should still be able to remedy the situation with the seller. If not, you still have the right to walk away. You may not get your earnest money back depending on what it is, and you may get your earnest money back. It is a case by case basis. But this repair addendum is essential when you're talking and walking through repairs and negotiating. The other addendum that we also often see is the standard addendum to a contract. It is just about 10 lines and you just write in. This is the addendum that we use to extend closing dates. It is the addendum that we use to reduce sales price or increase closing costs. This is the standard addendum outside of the repairs. So whatever you have an addendum and it is not directly related to repairs, this is the addendum that you would use, the standard addendum form 390. So this is the information that we shared today in our mastery. I thank you guys. Addendums are your friend. Use them wisely and for the purposes intended. So I appreciate you listening. If you have, excuse me, any questions to addendums, um, and you want to discuss it with me, please give me a call here at the office or email me, and I will gladly go over that with you. But happy addendum writing, and make sure that your broker and your lawyer get to see that addendum and give you the final okay on any addendums that you write. We want to be very careful of that because we don't want to obligate our buyers or our sellers to something that will come back and haunt them in the long run. Okay? So, happy real estate. I hope you guys are writing lots of contracts. Thank you. I'll see you at the next recording.